go down a little bit farther. Let's go back to 12 and read from 12 on down to 16. I can read it. Now David was the son of an Ephraite named Jesse, who was from Bethlehem in Judah. Jesse had 8 sons. In Saul's time, he was old and well advanced in years. Jesse's 3 oldest sons had followed Saul to war. The firstborn was Eliab, and the second Abinadab, and the third Shemaiah. David was the youngest. The 3 oldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to tend his father's sheep in Bethlehem. For 40 days, the Philistines came forward every morning and every evening and took his stand. I think that shows a little more of the character of David. That even though Israel was at war, he knew that his dad was still old, so he still, even though he wanted to support Israel, even though he did support Israel, he still took care of his responsibilities at home too. Mm-hmm. He would go back and forth and still, he was humble. At this point, he had already been anointed as the new king of Israel, but he was still humble. He didn't try to force his position. He didn't try to make a stand or make no ground announcements. He was going to support Saul, and he still was going to take care of his responsibilities at home. I was when we were at church this Sunday. The sermon was on doing what you can for God, and the guy was saying that that we often say, well, if only if I could do this, or only if I had this, if I had $1 million, then I could stop working, I could really do something for God, or only if I could just concentrate on teaching or concentrate on preaching, I could really do something for God. But at the same time, all we need to do is what we do. We just be humble and take care of our responsibilities. And when God presents the opportunity for us to do work, we do that work. And that's what he wants us to do. We don't have to make any grandstands. And David, at this point, he wasn't making any grandstands. He was just doing what God had wanted him to do, which was take care of the sheep and support Saul as much as he could. Anybody else want to add anything to that?
I'm looking at his sons. I mean, the others, Abinadab, Shammah, and Eliab. One thing about them, then Samuel was looking over them before he was looking at David, and they already described David as a little rut out there in the sheep. But then I don't see neither one of them standing up and stepping forward. So that shows you the character of those guys right there. We just with y'all. We ain't trying to, be nobody's champion.
Goliath had them all shook. He had them shook, man. He was a big guy.
He came out there wow. And he came for 40 days to saying the same thing from morning
same
to evening.
Thing over and over.
Really, mate. I mean, that makes you look bad right there. Everybody in your household, somebody out there knocking at your door, want you every day. Come on out. Come on out. And your sons and your kids all looking at that's why. Daddy may say that's a crazy man out there, but sooner or later the kid gonna start saying, "Is Dad a coward? We had the right man leading this family." So it can be in a way that how God would change. How he said God changes Saul's heart to make him feel a certain way, and also God is actually showing the people that this man that you all wanted to be over you all. He didn't step forward to lead nobody.
Exactly. God took his spirit away from Saul at that point.
Yeah.
So Saul didn't have the courage that he had before because the spirit of God wasn't with him anymore. He didn't have that strength anymore. So again, God showing us who he was with, and where his power lied. It's courageousness of David. Let's move on a little bit farther. Somebody want to read that next part? No.
Okay, I'll take what we got, 17 and what?
Let's go on down to 24.
Okay. Then Jesse said to his son David, take now for your brothers an ephah of the dried grain and these 10 loaves, and run to your brothers at the camp, and carry these 10 cheeses to the captain of their thousands, and see how your brothers fare, and bring back news of them. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. So David rose early in the morning, left the sheep with the keeper, and took the things and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the camp as the army was going out to fight and shouting for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had drawn up in battle array, army against army. And David left his supplies in the hand of the supply keeper, ran to the army, and came and greeted his brothers. Then, as he talked with them, there was the champion, the Philistine of God, Goliath by name, coming up from the armies of the Philistine, and he spoke according to the same word. So David heard them. And where you say stop at?
Going down to 24, you're gonna read 24.
Okay. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were dreadfully afraid.
So this just showed again that how afraid they were of Goliath, and putting David in place to do his part where he's going to fight against Goliath at. Anybody else want to add anything? Go ahead.
You know what stands out to me, Brother Griff? Now, it stated that they was in battle uniforms and they was in battle formation, and they were ready to fight. But if you look at it, y'all was ready to fight as a group. But when that one big man stepped forward, they got afraid. So it tells me that you seem better as that group than as that individual. So like, I mean, if you feel stronger by a group with you, then that's how you should fight. I know they didn't fight like that. That one man scared them.
But what if the Philistines wouldn't allow Israel to fight that way?
I guess since he had made the challenge of 1-on-1 battle, that it would have been better, or it would have been more acceptable for them to do that, because it would have been less bloodshed. Exactly. It would just been one man on one man. Again, like Patrick was saying, it was a strategic move by Goliath to do that, because now they had it was more reasonable, why all us fight and it'd be more bloodshed when we can just have one man fight and then the battle be decided.
And and I agree with that, but I'm just saying, if you think,
they could try, all of them could try to fight them, but
fight, been strong with that.
And actually, I think that may have been more of a standard in Israel than it was actually in Felicia at the time. That might have been one of their standards as far as doing one-on-one combat instead of all of them fighting at the same time.
Because if you look at all the skirmishes that the children of Israel had got into before this time, they were all fighting as a group, not as one individual. And they was winning because they knew that that one individual they were depending on, who was God, was with them.
Pat, you want to add something to that?
Y'all doing pretty good, man. Keep the fire burning, man.
So I don't know if they did do and this is all speculation, if they had done a conventional warfare, they had just attacked as they had usually done, if God would have been with them, because I think God was trying to make a point at this point. He was trying to show him that there was no way to win as far as if David fought Goliath unless he had intervened. Sometimes God put them in a position where it's obvious that it was God who did the winning. That they didn't win by by the power of their own might. They won by the power of God. And with the story of with the narrative of David and Goliath, we can see that point, because Goliath, of course, he was physically larger than David. He was, of course, he was stronger than David. He was better outfitted, because I think that's one reason they went into the explanation of what he was wearing. He was better equipped, of course. David had his slingshot, and Goliath had a gigantic sword and a huge javelin. So in all standards, as we were looking at in the worldly way, there should have been no way that David could have defeated him. And God wanted to set up that narrative that in any other circumstances, 10 out of 10 times that Goliath should have been the winner of this fight. But we see that the person that God had chosen, which was David, come in, and he has no armor. He's small of stature, and he's going to use a very unconventional weapon that's not really a weapon. It's a toy. That it could be nobody but God who pulled that victory at such a situation. And I think that's why it was important that they did. So maybe God, he allowed the Israelites to be in fear. We saw before where he had emboldened Saul. So he needed them to see, this is who I chose, and I'm with him, and I'm with him in a mighty way. And that may be one of the reasons why we didn't see conventional warfare right here.
Another thing I'd like to say on that, it says 15 was saying David occasionally went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep. That shows to me that David wasn't there all the time.
No.
So he didn't actually, he didn't act within those 40 days and mornings and evenings that Goliath was making that presentation of who gonna stand before me, give me you all as champion. David, I don't think David heard all of that. Because his dad actually sent him to that, and a lot of time we got armor, but everybody's not on the front lines. I don't think David was actually on the front lines to hear all those threats that Goliath was making. But when
he heard some of them. He
heard some of them. When he came, exactly, when he came this time, and they said, so David heard then okay, this supposed to be the tough guy, but I'm not scared of him, because I know who's protecting me.
Yeah. No, we know that he heard it. We know that he heard it this time.
Yeah, he heard it this time.
Yeah, he's gonna react. He's gonna react. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Let's go on to let's go on reading 25. We're gonna start at 25. Let's go on down to 29. Read all the way down to 29.
All right. I'll read. 1 Samuel, is it 17?
Yes. 1 Samuel 17, 25.
25 through 29. It says, and then the men of Israel said, have you seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up, and it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, what shall be done to this man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? And the people answered him after this manner, saying, so shall it be done to the man that killeth him. And Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spake unto the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, what camest thou down here? And whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and thy naughtiness of thine heart, for thou art come that thou mightest see the battle. And David said, what have I now done? Is there not a cause?